First of all, introducing our challenger.
Out of the blue corner.
He's going to step in and he does. It's all over.
Let's bring on the boom.
This is Eternal MMA.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Eternal Insiders. We are being joined today by one of the men set to headline an absolutely stacked 4-title fight main card at Eternal 82. It's Dom Marfan, kind enough to join us right here, right now, talk about his big win at Eternal 81 and how it set him up for a big rematch against Quillan Salkilld, this time with the lightweight title on the line. Dom, thank you very much for joining us here today, brother. Always a pleasure. How are things with you?
I'm great, bro. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
No, always a pleasure, man. Let's jump straight into it. I mean, let's talk about your 2023, because what a run that you've been on, as of late. Given that the one blemish on your record was the aforementioned Quillan Salkilld back in 2022, you go into 2023, you get 3 wins from 3, your last 2 fights by finish. Was this the perfect response to set you up going forward?
Yeah, 100%. And I got to be able to. I got to thank that loss for putting me in the right direction there. I definitely made huge gains. That I know I made a lot faster than I would have made if I didn't have that loss. Like it definitely kicked me into a different gear. Like I already thought I was working hard, but man, it pushed me way harder.
So I mean, let's just talk about that. Do you think that was ultimately the catalyst to set you up to go on this run, that one blemish on? And let's be frank, a very young career. I mean, 4-1 in your professional career right now is still just the beginning. But you credit that loss with setting you up on this epic run.
Yeah, 100%. When I took that loss, obviously more than anything, I just wanted to be able to jump back in there. I got matched up for 2 different fights, and then I ended up having to pull out of those fights because I got injured in my last sparring session for those camps. And man, just being benched that whole time, kind of watching from the sideline, kind of watching Quillan, all respect to him, but like he ended up fighting the guys that I kind of had in my mind that I was going to fight after I beat him. And then he got the title, the exact thing that I was looking for. And it felt like someone stole my destiny. And fuck, man, I'm ready to steal it back.
No, I mean, it's shark-infested waters here in the lightweight division in Australia, man, so I can completely appreciate that. But, I mean, you came back in impressive fashion. You had the big win at Eternal 81 against Michael Stanoff. Now, besides eating that right hand early, I mean, it was pretty much one-way traffic, through round 1 into round 2. When you got him down to the ground, you ultimately finished the fight by submission. How satisfied were you with that performance overall?
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it, man. I kind of said to my team that was how it was going to go. I said if I was the one that had to engage in the grapple from him hitting me and landing clean, then it was gonna get finished in the second. Either way, I knew it was like when we started grappling, I knew I was gonna win. I knew I was gonna ride him out a little bit. But it was just like who engaged first. The plan was to like clip him on his way in while he's trying to rush in. And then I was confident if I had done that in the first, and he had to be the one to shoot on me, I would have put him away in the first. But yeah, I was happy with it. Either way, a win's a win.
So, I mean, were you expecting, a part of you was expecting maybe that he was going to come out with, some big shots and you were going to turn into a grappling match? So is it safe to say that the trajectory of the fight kind of followed what you had in mind? Yeah,
well, I couldn't see him, like he's kind of like he's that type of guy that's like, he's going to either hit you with that big overhand right, or he's going to try to grapple you. That kind of like standard, like boxer wrestler type of game in MMA. And we knew he wasn't going to try to grapple me unless I really gave him a reason to, because he's not an idiot. Like he would have been able to like watch the tape and seen that I've got strengths in that area. So yeah, like it was a shame I got caught with that right hand, but yeah, still went into the grapple, so it worked out well for me.
I think you might have said this in the post-fight speech, but like, how heavy was that shot? Did you feel sort of rocked? What you sort of feeling? Did it hurt? Did you have your wits about you? What was the feeling like after taking the hit?
Yeah, it was a heavy shot for sure. I've been hit a lot harder than that. So I was comfortable with it. By the time my back hit the cage, like I completely had my bearings back, but I kind of just like I let myself settle for a little bit, and I just like let myself kind of breathe in and like absorb like the fight around me. It's something that I've kind of learned to do the more I've been fighting, is to kind of like stop for a second while I'm in there, enjoy the moment, and then go back to it. And yeah, that's what I did. That's the only reason why I chilled with my back on the fence for a little bit. I was just enjoying the moment. Like, hey, I'm in a fight, but it's all good.
Now, what was the confidence level like coming into this fight, man? I suppose from like a preparation perspective, was everything on point? Because I mean, you know, for the vast majority of the fight, you look poised, you look good, you look sleek, you look composed to someone so young. How was that preparation? Did you feel as good as you looked?
Yeah, I felt awesome. I felt absolutely awesome. Yeah, I feel like I'm really starting to get the hang of the lead up to my fight. I'm really starting to get the hang of kind of like knowing how to peak properly, knowing how to like taper properly. I've always been told kind of the right way to do it, but like as a bit of an idiot and a bit of a young fighter, you know, like trying to taper in fight week, I always want to train. So like I'd end up doing more than I needed to do or doing more than I should be doing. And I kind of like gassed myself out by the time the fight came around, which is kind of silly. I've definitely got more maturity now, so I approach it differently. I know kind of the amount of rest that I need, the amount of training I still need to stay sharp, the amount of rest I need to be able to like recover my body, and I kind of blend them together a little bit better nowadays.
Now, we couldn't see it properly from our angle at home because, you know, sort of the way the position was in the finish. I mean, you took Stanoff down to the ground. Now, you had him in that position. You eventually finished with that rear naked choke. Were you smelling that submission there at some point? Walk us through that finish, because we couldn't see it. I didn't realize the fight was over, but all of a sudden the fight's over, done, dusted, we're going home. Walk us through that finish from your perspective.
Man, shout out to my my wrestling coach, Eric Simmons from like he's over in the US now, but he used to be in Australia coaching me, and he used to set quotas for me, right? So like in wrestling practice, he'd go, hey, okay, I want you to break 3 people. I want you to break 3 people mentally this training before you go home. And I would get better at kind of like that being my goal, not just a takedown, not just like riding someone, not just landing strikes, but like how using my wrestling and my pressure, how I'd be able to break someone mentally. And I got better at kind of like feeling that it's very, very hard to describe, but you can feel it when you're that connected to someone and you're grappling them. You can kind of feel when their spirit breaks a little bit. And I felt it was quite obvious to me in the moment. I felt kind of like a deep exhale from Stanoff. I felt him kind of, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, that's the one. Like he's ready to go. And when someone's like in that point where they're like they're ready to get out of there, I knew like it's just time to start digging for the submission. Like they're ready to get out. I
mean, because you had him late towards the end of the first round, didn't you? In that choke, like did you think that one was close?
I did think it was close, man. I heard him.
It looked close.
I heard him. Yeah, I heard him kind of like gagging, and I was like, oh fuck, like this is very, very close. I'm kind of like doing the math in my head. I'm like, fuck, it's been on for like 4 seconds. Like, I reckon 3 more and he's out. And then buzzer goes. I'm like, fuck. Like, I strongly believe if there was 2 more seconds to that round, I would have had him asleep.
So what does that sort of do for, you know, a fighter like of your age, of your sort of experience? I mean, you have that, it's almost sort of sunk in and the bell goes and you got to go back to your corner. Does it kind of bum you out a little bit, or does it give you a confidence that, hey, I know it's there, let's just go back and get it in the next round because he's definitely open for it?
Yeah, it kind of bummed me out a little bit, only just because I really wanted to show the world, like after I won in the Jimmy the Dog fight, people looked at the Stanoff fight as like a bit of a step up, and they're like, okay, well, let's see how you go in this one. And I wanted to just do another first round finish. I wanted to be like, hey, like it doesn't matter who you put in front of me, I'm just gonna finish him in the first round, like it's nothing. And I don't know, I kind of had that set in my mind. I was like, okay, I reckon I'm gonna finish him. When I didn't finish him, like I'm pretty good at rolling with the punches and kind of going like, okay, it doesn't matter, I'll just get him in the next round. But yeah, I was definitely wanting to finish him in the first.
No, I mean, you got the finish either way, man. It set us up for a big rematch against Quillan Salkilld. Now, you called for this fight in the post-fight speech with Blake Richardson after the big win. Now, just on that, I mean, you guys, leveling up before our eyes. You both coming up in your careers, both two young guys in the lightweight division. Now, to my knowledge, this was potentially a fight that you could have taken ahead of taking the standoff fight. Now, what's your sort of thoughts around that? Was this a fight you could have taken? I believe that you said you wanted one more fight before you came in there and got the job done. Now, was that the case? And if so, why did you want to get that first fight in before coming in with this rematch?
Yeah, well, so, man, like, obvious, the second I lost the fight to Quillan, man, I wanted a rematch. The second I was back in the dressing room, I was like, all right, give me another shot. Let me fight this guy again. And I kind of talked with my coach about it, and he's kind of more of the perspective that, like, hey, like, don't ever try to, like, it's almost insulting if you demand a rematch straight away. It's almost like you're saying the other guy got lucky, which he didn't just get lucky. He did really, really well in that fight. I would argue that's his best performance to date. So I wanted to leave like a certain amount of fights, like let him progress, let me progress, like let it be a completely different fight, not just like, hey, give me a rematch. Like, I want to prove that you got lucky. It's like, no, let us both develop. We're both young guys. We're both arguably destined for the UFC. So why not let that kind of like maturity develop and see like what type of exciting fight it ends up being now,
No, I mean, it just sets us up for such a big rematch. I mean, to your point, not rushing back in there, which, as you said, I'm sure you wanted to get back straight away. But, I mean, it's just made it that much bigger. The run that Quillan's gone on, the run you've gone on now, and we're both seeing you guys, again, to what you said, like just getting so much better with your skills, and you get to top that absolutely epic card at Eternal 82 for that lightweight title. I mean, we're looking forward to it, man. It's going to be absolutely epic. I mean, when you look back on that fight with Quillan, is there any sort of key takeaways for yourself from that fight? Like, in retrospect, like, what are some of the things that you think you sort of learned from that point? Like, what do you think is different from yourself, from that fight up until where you are now?
I think the biggest thing was my maturity and my decision making. I think I made a lot of poor decisions in that fight. I won't go too much into it because I want to keep my cards pretty close to the chest for that one. But I definitely made a lot of poor decisions in that fight. I think my decision making has matured nowadays.
Sure. Now, I mean, like, as far as, what you're primarily known as, when we can see the accolades hanging in the background there as we talk here live on Zoom, but, you're known as a grappler, many titles that you've done in the grappling world and that sort of thing. But, I mean, your striking game is coming along so much. And, I mean, you're working with some of the best striking coaches in the world, Stephen Elliott Compton. Obviously, you're working with one Tom Nolan. Now a UFC fighter, a former Eternal MMA fighter in his own right. I mean, you mentioned before that you've taken some hard shots, harder than the ones that you took in the standoff fight. And I've got no doubt that was probably in the training room with probably the guys like Tom Nolan, Stephen Elliott Compton. Can you just talk a bit about how those guys are, upgrading that facet of your game to match your clearly, very well-rounded grappling game? Yeah.
Man, Tom and Elliott hit so fucking hard, honestly. Like, I'm so convinced that there are none of these guys in the division are going to be able to hit me as hard as those guys do. Man, they hit you so hard you can taste your fucking brain through your asshole. Like, it's crazy, man. It's an insane thing. And man, like, it's weird. Like, I've almost, like, I don't know, the older I've gotten, I seem to be able to take a shot a lot better than I used to be able to. Like, if you look, there's a clip online of me getting knocked out when I was like a 19-year-old early in a fight, by a shot that would, like, man, Sanoff hit me way harder than that person had hit me. I've definitely gotten a lot better at taking a shot, and I've also gotten a lot better at being able to recognize when I'm going to get hit by a shot that would actually do some serious damage. Like, I think people get caught up in sparring with, they get a little like tip tappy, and they kind of get in this idea of like, you're trying not to get touched at all. With me, I'm not trying not to get touched at all. I'm trying not to like get hit by that massive shot that's gonna knock me out. So I think training with those guys and the maturity in their game, they're not just trying to like score points. They're trying to like land shots that would do a lot of damage. They're both people that in their fights, they're knocking people out cold. So they're training in an intelligent way. And And when they do that, it makes it a lot easier for me to like kind of get used to like, okay, well that shot would do a lot of damage. Stay away from that one. But hey, like I'm a little bit safer here, and I'll stay here.
Now, just on this rematch, man, I mean, as you said, you don't want to talk about too much about where you've necessarily leveled up because you want to play things close to your chest. But I mean, when you think about this fight, what do you think, if anything, is going to be the big difference in the match? Not necessarily from what you're going to bring to the table, but do you see the fight playing out in any sort of different way based on where you guys have gone in your career, based on what you sort of leveled up at? Like, do you see the fight playing out in a similar way? Do you see the fight playing out in a bit of a different way?
I obviously see it playing out in a different way.
The result, you see it playing out in a sort of a different way, but in terms of the theme of the fight, do you think anything in terms of just a growth perspective in terms of both your games? I mean, again, like you guys are coming out in such a big way, and it's very evident through each sort of fight. Obviously you want the result to be very different, but do you see the fight itself playing it in a sort of a different way, either in terms of a striking perspective, maybe a grappling perspective? What do you have in mind?
I see it playing out in a very different way. Again, I got to play that one close to my chest.
All right.
There's some areas I plan to exploit, but I'm gonna keep that pretty close to my chest.
Without giving anything away in your game, is there anything that you see since you've been watching Quillan on his run? Is there anything that you see in terms of weaknesses? You don't have to tell me, but is there some things that you see in his game where you think, yes, I can take advantage of this?
Undoubtedly, 100%. 100%. There's some areas that I definitely plan to exploit, without a doubt.
All right. I won't press you on that because we want it to be a secret. No, we don't want to play any spoilers ahead of this fight, which we're very much looking forward to. So we'll see how it goes. Now, last one before you go, brother. I mean, you get this win. You'd be 1-1 with Quillan, right? I mean, you'd be bringing that belt back to Queensland, back to your hometown. This will be the second time that you face Quillan over in Perth, right? Is it fair to say, I mean, would it be high time you get this win, you take the belt back home to Queensland? Should he be coming over and seeing you in your hometown this time around? And maybe we square the ledger here. We get the decider and you go 2 for 1. He comes over and sees you in Queensland.
Yeah, man. Well, after I win, if he wanted a rematch, it's happening in Queensland. I'm not going back to Perth for it. Like, I'm happy to go take that belt in Perth. But like, yeah, if he wanted that back, he's got to come in my back gun. And he's got to try to hunt it back there for sure.
That's absolutely fair enough, man. Well, all the best, brother. Thank you very much for joining me on the show. I mean, this is absolutely incredible, right? I mean, how good is it for you to be able to be sitting atop an absolutely stacked 4-title fight main card for Eternal 82? I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's the biggest card we've ever seen, at least in my time. I mean, we got Quillan Salkilld versus Don Marfan for the lightweight title. We've got Rod Costa versus Alan Philpott. For the bantamweight title, Anthony Drillich defending his title for the first time. I mean, we got Alden Bates versus the returning Caleb Rideout for the welterweight title. It doesn't get any bigger than that, man. So I'm sure you're absolutely looking forward to that. Even though you're going to Perth, I mean, Perth, what a place. Let's go get that belt, man. Let's bring it back to Queensland. Let's bring it back to Team Compton Training Centre. And maybe we set up that trilogy fight with Quillan Salkilld. So thank you very much for your time, brother. Fans, go get your tickets for EternalMMA.com or not. We're tuning in live and exclusive to UFC Fight Pass to see that epic title fight. Thanks again, man. We'll see you on the other side. All the best at Eternal 82.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Thank you for having me.
If I somehow fuck up this intro, which I hope I don't, I'm just going to start and do it again. But let's hope I nail it first time. See how we go. Kind enough to join us with no, I'm going to start again. Sorry.
You're good, bro.
Practically like 5 times. We're going to. All right.
You're good, bro.
All right.